I just heard some chimes in the background, which sounded like a 3/4 hour. Every college and every church seems to have a different chime in Oxford. Hello, everybody. Paul Ducklin back again, Naked Security Live. And as you can see from the title, today's topic that I thought I'd cover, because we did write about this on Naked Security and our sister blog over on news.sophos.com, Sophos Labs guys. They wrote a detailed analysis of some adware called bundleware. And to give you an idea of where that name's come, that's law as in folklore, and bund, B-U-N-D, as in bundle. So we'll get on to why that's important and what the risks are in a moment. Now, I thought I'd have some architectural fantastitude for you today. So again, I'm in the middle of Oxford, and I do have something that's really important, but of course, with the field of view of the camera on an iPhone, I haven't actually really given you any idea of what the building looks like in full, but behind me, the important thing, it is the Andrew Wiles building, part of the Mathematical Institute at Oxford. And Sir Andrew Wiles, as you probably know, is ultra famous. He's an Oxford mathematician now. He's originally from the other place, Cambridge. In fact, I think he got his doctorate there. He's been associated with Cambridge, with Oxford, with Princeton, but his real claim to fame is he proved Fermat's last theorem, a theorem that everyone thought was obvious and should be easy to prove, but turned out to be really, really, really complicated, all the way from the 17th century, where Pierre de Fermat said, hey, this theory is quite easy, I've got a proof, but it's not quite big enough to fit in the margin of these notes. And it took hundreds of 350 years later, Sir Andrew Wiles, well, he wasn't Sir Andrew when he proved it, he was Sir Andrew because he proved it, proved Fermat's last theorem, which caused all sorts of interesting theoretical advancements in mathematics. And now he has his own building named after him. It's not where he lives, you understand. It's quite large. I think if you lived there, the central heating bills would be enormous. But it is part of the revived Radcliffe Observatory part of Oxford. So enough about that. Let's get back on to the not so amazing part of today's Facebook Live, namely adware. I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure you kind of think, well, it's just about putting ads out. It's just about ads online. I've kind of got used to those, whether I'm on Facebook or Google or even in my email client, like if you use Gmail or Outlook.com, you know that part of the way that those services fund themselves is by presenting you with ads and making money out of that. So if you get software that goes by the name adware and you put it on your laptop or your desktop computer, what possible harm could that do? So let's take a look at that quickly, and let's see what the risks are and what the traditional adware purveyors actually get up to. And like I said, we wrote up this Sophos Labs research into an adware bundler called bundleware. It's not new. It's been around. We've been detecting that family of I nearly said malware, adware, since about 2015. Keeps reinventing itself, and it's not just for Windows. In fact, the adware version, the bundleware version that we wrote up on Naked Security, this one specifically targets Mac users. So whether you're running Mac, Linux, Windows, even OpenBSD, when you're in your browser, obviously you can often get confronted with stuff which could cause you to commit a security blunder, even without the operating system itself getting compromised. For example, you could go to a website and just put in the wrong data. You could put the right password into the wrong site. You could give away details that you later regret. You could put in credit card detail and CVV code to buy something from a site that turns out to be fraudulent. So the browser is still, even on a super secure, even on a lockdown system, even in a modern browser, which is kind of runs in its own sandbox and makes it very, very difficult for software running inside it to escape from it. Even in today's browsers, you can be at significant risk. And we also know that you tend to get pelted with ads these days because that's the kind of currency that makes the internet tick. So why have adware if you can present ads in a browser? And typically, the answer on a laptop or a desktop computer is if somebody can persuade you to install a program that includes software that's all about really pushing ads hard on you, harder than you might normally get on a Google or a Facebook or an Outlook.com, and ads that might alter the stuff that you see if you go to a regular website. The reason that the purveyors of this stuff like to try and get you to install a software bundle on your computer is once you've installed it, just like a regular app or like malware, it's running outside your browser, and so it's actually got access to a lot more. And most importantly, what we saw and what you can read up with this bundleware adware is it is what we call bundleware, because it contains this sort of nesting doll's worth of stuff. Some of it depends, for example, in the Mac version, it even works out whether you've got the latest version of macOS or the one before, which means that the Safari extensions that you need are different, and it picks accordingly, it installs all of that sort of stuff. And the particular thing to look out for with adware like bundleware is that it's not overt like an app that runs separately from your browser. Typically, what adware likes to do on a laptop is to install browser plugins or browser extensions which knit themselves into the browser from the side of the operating system. So we're not talking about JavaScript, which comes down from a website, runs inside the browser, and is controlled by the browser. We're talking about a software component that plugs into the browser, extends its functionality, possibly in security improving ways, but unfortunately, as we see with a lot of adware, stuff that's designed to foist ads on you, in a way that could greatly decrease your security. And in fact, in the bundleware case, what we saw with this adware, we've seen it delivering extensions for all sorts of browsers, including Chrome, which is the most popular browser. But as you can imagine on a Mac, there's something kind of useful about putting Safari extensions down, because whether you choose Chrome or Edge or Firefox as your main browser on an Apple computer, the one browser you always have sitting there in the background ready to call upon is Safari. So that's why the crooks are interested in Safari, even though it's considered a minority browser on laptops these days. The idea is that if you have a Mac, it's the one that's always there. And I know lots of people who have Macs who don't use Safari as their first choice browser, but they do use it regularly, if not all the time, because you're probably familiar with the idea of having two browsers open. It means you can be logged in on one and not logged in on the other, and that's quite useful. Or you can be logged into two different accounts with two different browsers, because neither browser knows what cookies or what authentication tokens the other browser has. So it's quite common that even if you use, say, Chromium or Firefox as the main browser on your Mac, you probably run Safari at least occasionally, and the reason you run it, it's because it's there. So if the crooks can adapt the way that it behaves, then they can actually alter what you see when you go online, particularly when you think you're going online in some kind of alternative way, not with your main browser, and you think, well, I'm running the stripped down Safari that's on my Mac. So bundleware installs extensions, and as I said, it actually knows how to. Safari changed the way its extensions work between Safari 12 and Safari 13, and it carries around both of those so that it can adapt itself to the version you have. And the problem with web extensions, browser extensions that are geared towards serving up ads that you wouldn't otherwise see, in other words, somebody's trying to mess with your browser so that it actually alters the ads that have been paid to be displayed to you. The problem is that there's a lot that can go wrong. And some of the things that this bundleware adware does, for example, and this is characteristic of this kind of software. Well, firstly, it changes your search page. So from now on, when you do a search from the address bar, for example, instead of going to Bing or Google or whatever you've chosen, you go to a third-party search tool, which it kind of looks googly, but not in a way that completely rips off Google's look and feel. It's got the Google colors, and it kind of looks like a search bar you've seen before, but it isn't. When you put your search term in there, what actually happens is it doesn't do searching itself. It takes you off, in fact, in this case, to the Bing search engine, and it does a Bing search and brings you the results back, but it doesn't do a Bing search like you would. What it does is it sticks in affiliate codes that earn the adware bundler's revenue, because it looks as though these ads actually came from somebody else, or they came via somebody's website. So it's a sort of subterfuge, if you like, that actually makes it look as if you're browsing in a slightly different way. But adware doesn't just necessarily change your search page, which you can see. It also, because browser plugins actually sit there inside the browser, they're kind of immune to all the encryption that goes on between the browser and the web server you're visiting, because the plugin actually sees your traffic before it goes to the website you're visiting, before it actually gets encrypted for transmission, and the replies it sees after they've been decrypted before they're rendered by the browser. And most importantly, it's allowed, in fact this is a feature of web extensions, it's allowed to take what comes back and actually manipulate it and show you something different. And that, by the way, is how ad blockers work. They rely on being a web extension that fetches a web page, finds the links to their ads, or sees a request for a web page, stops the request for ads, or replaces the ads with stuff so you don't need either to download or see them. So the idea of manipulating web pages based on what you send out in the request and what comes back in the reply is quite a normal one. But of course the Adware guys kind of do that the other way around. So what the bundler Adware bundle does, in amongst other things, is while you're browsing, it will actually take results that you're going to, search queries that you're going to do, and rewrite them, either that so that they appear to come through some affiliate network, which essentially gets the Adware bundlers affiliate revenue they didn't really deserve, although they'd say, well, you chose to install their software. It can also, Adware can typically, in the reply, will take reply, say, from a search engine and insert additional ads over and above or instead of the ones that the search engine would provide you. So if you've got a favorite search engine and you generally find that the ads have become tailored to you, and you generally find that they've become trustworthy, or you're more inclined to click on them because you've had a reasonable experience before, after installing Adware you might find that those ads, they look similar, but they'll be completely different. And the other thing that particularly this bundle or Adware bundle does, one of the extensions that it injects, or one of the extensions that it uses, it has a really nasty habit of looking for download links, and actually when you go to download something, actually replaces or includes additional download link, so that as well as going to download something you trust, it actually takes you somewhere else first. So typically there might be, hey, here's a media player you need, or here's a Flash player update, or you haven't been using Flash because it's been discontinued, but if you need Flash for legacy reasons, here's how you can get it. And in fact, the bundle or Adware, in common with many others, actually presents itself in a sort of a legitimate way. It has a license agreement. By the way, that's why most security software doesn't actually detect this stuff as adware, it just as malware. It detects it as adware, or the generic term potentially unwanted applications. That's become the industry term. Technically this stuff isn't illegal because you're choosing to install it for some reason, but often there's an awful lot of subterfuge, which actually means that what you're installing looks like it's going to be something different. So for example, we've got some screenshots in the article about the bundle or Adware bundler that we wrote up that shows some of the ways in which it presents itself. So it might be some media player assistant, or it's an improved media player, or it provides search facilities that allow you to manage media and audio files, provide you with extra facilities you didn't have before. In fact, really what it's after is manipulating your search queries to generate revenue for the people who bundle this software, and also manipulating your downloads and the results that come back for exactly the same reasons. Obviously the downloads, what they want is they want to install yet more bundles of stuff which will generate them revenue from ads that you didn't really click. So it's not exactly click fraud, that's a very different thing, where crooks put malware on your computer that deliberately clicks ads in web pages that have somebody else's affiliate logo. Basically, when you invite the adware in, what you're inviting, perhaps without realizing it, perhaps without that being terribly clear in the lengthy license agreement, what you're inviting is a substantial change in the way ads appear and work on your system, including manipulating the very links you visit and the very links you download. So adware is not inherently bad, but as you can probably imagine from the description I've just given, the fact that it can do things like rewrite download links and cause you to go and download something different from what was originally proposed by the website you visited means that there is a massive security problem waiting to happen here. So so let me finish by saying, what can you do about it? Well, there are two simple things. One is, don't be seduced by programs that claim to improve your browsing appearance or give you access to legacy Flash apps that you can't access by regular means anymore, or a brand new media player for a whole new type of video format that you haven't seen before. Technically, these bundles will include, so for example, the bundler one, it calls itself webtools.app when you install it on the Mac. And technically they are web tools, they're just probably not quite the web tools that you thought you were getting into. So be wary of things that promise you new browsing experiences, because often part of that experience will be something you did not want, did not expect, and could greatly reduce your security. The second and even more important thing is be very, very careful of web extensions, because as I said before, a web extension actually alters the behavior of your browser internally. So it's taking software that you don't know whether you can trust and basically making it part of inviting inside the browser sandbox, where it sees your web requests, all the contents before they go out, and can manipulate all the content when it comes back. So web extensions can be very useful. That's how ad blockers work, and that's how many password managers work. So if you trust those, they can actually improve security and boost your browsing experience, but you need to look out for web extensions that you did not expect. And the way to do that, I'll just check my notes, because I got for 4 different browsers. Apologies to the Vivaldis and the Braves and the Opera users. I'm just going to do the big 4. So in Firefox, you go to Tools, Add-ons, and there's a page there that lets you see what extensions are installed, and you can actually disable them or even remove them entirely if there are ones you don't want. On Chromium, you go to Settings, Extensions. On Safari, it's Preferences, Extensions. Wouldn't it be nice if they're all the same? And on Edge, you click on the 3-dot menu, and in there there's actually a special page for extensions. So my recommendation is visit your web extensions page today, whichever browser you use, and make sure that there isn't something plugged into your browser doing stuff that you didn't expect, don't want, and could reduce security. So thanks for listening, everybody, and until next time, stay secure.